My life is pretty successful by many metrics. I have 2 degrees. I have a well paying job. I comfortably live in a pretty expensive state. I'm married. I'm able to take vacations pretty much every year. I'm able to buy clothes when I want to, indulge in the nuances of life, and, do the things that I really just want to do. Um, so, why is it that I feel guilty about that? Heavy. It's giving therapy session today. My name is Kristen, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're already subscribed, hey girl. I make videos for young women who are looking to live more fulfilling lives. Here we talk about the good, the bad, and the beautiful. So if that interests you, stay tuned. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about success and the guilt that can sometimes be paired with success. And it's something that I've been feeling and kind of meditating on pretty recent. This came to me a few weeks back when I was, just living life, living in the pleasures of my success, if you will, and living the life that really I once prayed for. And I felt an overwhelming wave of guilt. Now, to be fair, the environment around me didn't really help. As you may or may not know, I am Jamaican. I'm really closely tied to that culture and heritage. And I had just like, it was the week of, I think, Hurricane Melissa, which was really devastating. Thankfully, my family was, taken care of. But I do know of some people, like family friends, that lost their homes. They lost a lot in this hurricane. And it was very weird feeling like I'm here living life, enjoying life, and there's people who really are the only clothes they have are the ones on their back. They don't know where they're getting their next meal from, and they don't know where they're laying their head tonight. And I'm here enjoying basketball games and staying at hotels and just enjoying life, traveling, doing all the things that I want to do. And it was hard for me to grapple with because I am very closely tied to my upbringing. And I think that is the reason for some of the guilt that I've been experiencing. So, before I get into me feeling sad or feeling silly about feeling sad, I just want to give some context for how I grew up. I grew up in a working class household by a single parent who was also an immigrant. And though I grew up in proximity to middle class living, all of my close friends, my extended family members, my household in itself was working class. And so we grew up very humbly. My mom's upbringing was very humble, and she kept those standards, or she followed that lifestyle as she was here raising me. And so we were very resourceful growing up. I wasn't really asking for a bunch of unnecessary things. We hardly got to take vacations, hardly had birthday parties. She was always working. And, that it wasn't an issue to me growing up. I lived very comfortably in the sense that I was loved. I was always cared for. I never missed a meal. I never went with old clothes, dirty clothes, anything like that. So by no means was I impoverished. But if she missed a paycheck, maybe two, we would have been pretty strapped. I would just say we made it by the grace of God, and we were truly blessed. And I'm so grateful that God kept his hand on our life, because I know that's the only way that I'm able to be in the position that I am today. But that's really how I grew up, very humble, and a lot of that stuck with me. So even though I am living middle class right now, which is totally new for me, I still treat my life for the most part the way that I was raised. So, like, no wasting water, reduce, reuse, recycle, really reduce the amount of things that you're purchasing, reuse as much as you can, and make sure that you're recycling and trying to take care of the planet, really. Um, Eating out was hardly ever a thing growing up. I remember being a young child, and like if I had McDonald's this week, I couldn't even ask for another 2, 3 weeks. Like, forget me asking her saying no. I knew not to even ask, because if I did, she'd be like, "When was the last time you had it?" And I don't know if it was necessarily she didn't have the money for it, or she wanted to be mindful of what I'm consuming as a kid in terms of being healthy. And I think it was more so the latter. But as I got older, and it's like it wasn't McDonald's, it was, whatever, street food still. Um, it was very much like, we're not always eating out, like we're cooking at home, there's food at home. Why do you want to buy street food? And it was a negative connotation to eating out, really. It wasn't something that we could necessarily always afford. And so if we did it, it was a treat for a special occasion, or we hadn't done it in a while. So I understand it's okay. It wasn't just, yeah, whatever, we're hungry, we'll just get something out because we're out already. It was like, what's at home? We can cook food at home. There's always, always, always food in my house, whether she had something prepared or she needed to prepare something, or if we had like non perishables and we could pull that together to make a meal. Like we were really crafty in that sense that there was always something at home. You would never starve if you waited till we got home. So now, even when I lived on my own, I hardly got street food. In grad school, to be fair, I wasn't working, but I would limit myself to one meal out per week because I got food at home. The grocery store was literally across the street. Like, if you're going to buy street food, you might as well go across the street, get something, and come home and cook it instead of buying street food. And so when I moved on my own, like out here in California, I really didn't, indulge in street food that much. It was kind of the same, like, okay, what can I eat at home? What can I make at home? What are the things that I'm keeping in the fridge, in the freezer, so that if I'm ever in a situation where I need to make something quickly, I can do that. And then I moved in with my fiance, and he grew up differently. He grew up in a middle class lifestyle. He's a lover of food. And so for him, food is just food. Like if I'm hungry and I can buy food, I'm going to buy food. And that was a crazy concept for me. And it's still a crazy concept for me. And I had to unlearn some of the restrictions around that because why am I hoarding, not necessarily hoarding money, but why am I afraid to spend money on food if I'm hungry or if I want it? Why am I afraid to spend things that I want? And it took me a little bit to get used to that. Like when I first started making money for real, like this is the most money I've ever made in my life. Naturally, you tend to make more as you climb up, but this is more money than my mother has ever made. Like she's never had a salary like I have. And that's crazy to me. That's not crazy. Um it's just so foreign to me. That's foreign to me, and I had no concept of how to deal with, manage, steward the amount of money that I'm making now. And that doesn't mean I was tricking it off. That means that I didn't have to restrain myself to the life that I was living when I wasn't making half as much money as I'm making now. And I'm in a two income household. I mean, I have a lot more cushion than I had growing up. And yet I'm still afraid to spend money on food, or I feel like it gets to be excessive, or I hate wasting water, or throwing out food, or, just not being resourceful, or using things like buying something new when something that you have can just be repaired. Um, it's still something that is challenging for me. And I think it's challenging for me because I feel like as I move into this next phase in my life, um, by kind of letting go of the restrictions that I had growing up, I almost feel as if I am abandoning who I am or who I was raised to be. And that is pretty hard to grapple with because those things are who I am, and I do not want to cry, although I'm a very emotional person, but my makeup looks too good to mess it up, and I have somewhere to be later. So, um, but I feel like me changing those standards feels like I'm abandoning myself and my upbringing and my culture and my heritage. And that's something that I had to really look into to understand. And that's why I'm here sharing it in case anyone else out there feels the same, in case you had a similar upbringing, or if you've ever felt feelings of guilt tied to being successful. There's so many things that that upbringing gave to me that some are useful and some I had to let go. And I think this guilt is just one of the other things that I'm having to learn to let go of. I know that worry and anxiety are some of the things that I got from that upbringing, because if you're constantly feeling like you're tight on money, you're tight on cash, it's really easy to feel worried about how you'll be able to pay for upcoming bills, or you might feel anxious about if something happens to the car, or if something happens to where we're living, how are we going to make it? What's our backup plan? And I think I inherited a lot of whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. I think I inherited a lot of that worry and anxiety, and thankfully I was able to go to therapy and kind of talk through those things and learn how the worry or anxiety, or the voice in my head that is causing me to spiral, is trying to protect me because of how I was brought up. But I don't, oh my gosh, but I don't need that protection anymore. Excuse me. And I know, mm, 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 mm. I'm sorry, y'all. I know that might have to speed through this part. Okay. As you can see, this is really raw and real feelings to me. And even though like this came up like a few weeks ago, it's still something that I didn't fully unpack, because I wanted to really unpack it here, so that you guys can get, like what I'm really feeling. A part of the guilt is that I feel guilty that the people who shared similar upbringings can't experience what I'm experiencing. And so that's when I started like researching the topic of like success and guilt, and feeling guilty about your success. And one of the psychologists that I was listening to really explained it in a way that was super helpful for me. It's I can't fully grasp it, but I get it. Success is not deserved, and neither is failure. They're earned. And that's fair, because I've earned my success. I didn't just fall into my job. I didn't just fall into my marriage. I didn't just fall into moving across the country. All of those things were planned. I worked towards making those happen. I worked towards having the life that I have now. And so I earned it. But failure, or the failure of people, that aren't in my position, um, I don't want to necessarily say that their failure is deserved. Um, and it's hard to almost even say their failure is earned. Maybe they didn't work as hard or as strategically. Yes, that's possible. But I'm not aloof to the fact that this society does its does its big one on oppressing people who are not, and who are not male. So um, I think that that's also a part of the equation. And she didn't really get to that. She was not Black, so it doesn't surprise me, and that's okay. Her opinion is still valid. Not her opinion. Her knowledge on the matter and expertise on the matter was still very helpful to me in coming to terms with why I might be feeling guilty about this. Because I feel like I'm abandoning my past or leaving people behind. And thankfully, I have no extrinsic pressure to feel guilty about this. All of my family is very supportive of me. They're supportive of my success. They understand why I made the decisions I've made. They don't ask me for money. um, I don't have any pressure to be feeling guilty. This is just my internal feelings towards this matter and towards my success. And I can't, I feel like I cannot move on in terms of, say, enjoying the present or reaching higher levels of success until I address this. And so, that's why I started just hearing other people's perspective of it. And what it kind of came down to is living in the present. If I'm like halfway, feeling guilty about what I've come from, and feeling, I'm halfway there. I'm not in the moment, and feeling grateful for the opportunities that I have and the success that I have. And I think that could really inhibit me from reaching greater heights. And so addressing it now was really important to me as I continue to reach, higher heights of success. I think one of the things that I take solace in, if you will, is that I get to stand on the shoulders of those that came before me. So my grandmother also was Jamaican. She grew up there. She was the first one to emigrate here, and try to make a life for her family. And she was sending money back to my mom and her other siblings. And then she sent for my mom to come here. And so she was the first trailblazer. And her success was, getting out of a poor situation back on the island. And so my mom was able to build on top of that by getting her degrees. And then I was able to build on top of that by also getting my degrees, but then also using it to make a career. And I'm grateful for that. Okay. I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the success that that has brought me. Um, and I don't want to let them down, but I also want my children to continue going further than I have. And so, because of that, I can't hold on to this guilt and have it keep me here. I need to keep moving forward and also understand what it means to prevent having this guilt of success, because I don't want my children to feel this, because I don't want them to be held back by feeling like they're more successful than their mom. What does that mean? It means living in the present. It means acknowledging, where you've come from, but also acknowledging where you are and how you were able to get here. You didn't just stumble upon this. You earned your right to be where you are, and you need to celebrate that, and you need to sit with that and acknowledge that and understand that you're still able to help those from, that are back where you once were. And it doesn't mean that you owe them money or you owe them your time or you owe them anything. You can choose to give that to them if you want, and you can help to elevate them, but it isn't your job to secure your success and their success. You can encourage them, you can be an example for them, but they have to want it intrinsically. And that's nothing that you can control and nothing that you should feel guilty about. You know why you want to be successful. And if you don't, you really need to think about why you're trying to be successful. Are you trying to be successful to prove it to somebody else? Are you trying to be successful for yourself? What is your intrinsic motivator? And you want to focus on that when you're feeling guilty, because I know that I want to have a larger impact and I want to continue to help people, and I can't do that at the level I'm at right now. So I have to keep pushing forward to reach higher heights of success. And I need to be focused on that, or focus more of my energy on that than focusing on the past. I can still love where I came from and use that as my foundation, and I will. But I can't let it hold me back, because the more successful I am, the more I will be able to reach my hand back and help people who I feel like also just didn't have the right opportunities to be where I am. So, as you can see, this is still a lot for me to grapple with, but I think this just talking it out is helpful. And I feel like I've mentioned that in previous videos, that for me, talking through something is really cathartic. And I'm hoping that this is helpful to you, and, you know, this resonates, or that, if you have been feeling this way, that you shouldn't feel guilty about the success that you've achieved to this up to this point. And you really should just focus on being in the present. Focus on, what got you to where you are. Focus on where you are, and it's okay to enjoy it. It's okay to, treat yourself, and it's okay to still keep some of those things with you. I can't say that I would let go of the upbringing that I have, because I think that's allowed me to value and appreciate all that I have, but I don't need to let it rule me and feel that, oh, just because I'm successful now, doesn't mean that I can't enjoy it. I still have to feel like I don't have it all together. Because I don't want to get to my deathbed and then feel regret, like, oh, look at all the opportunities that I had that I kind of just, didn't take advantage of because I didn't feel deserving of them. And so it's really important to sit with these feelings when you have them, talk about them, acknowledge them, don't push them to the side. And it's okay to, be emotional about them or grieve, if you will, who you once were. But it's also important to celebrate who you are and who you're becoming. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to hear more content like this, make sure to subscribe. I will be posting on the third Sunday of every month. So turn your notification bell on and look out for more. And then while you're here, check out one of my past videos. I'll place them somewhere here for you to check out. Until next time, bye.